Wyoming News Now starts now.
Good morning, Wyoming. It is 6:30 a.m. It is Tuesday, November 3rd. It is Election Day here in the Cowboy State. Thanks for joining us. I'm Grace Foulk. Well, Carrie, it's amazing what 10 minutes can do. I'm actually going to step out of the shot right now just to give you a look behind me. I mean, you saw that line 10 minutes ago. Wyomingites voted for President Donald Trump. The president received all of Wyoming's 3 electoral votes, according to the Associated Press. The Associated Press, however, has not called the race for president. We will get into election results for the state of Wyoming. But first, we have meteorologist Erin Lowry joining us this morning with a first look at our forecast on this Wednesday. And something that I heard quite a bit going into the budget session back in February and March was that this is the people's house. That's something Speaker of the House Steve Harshman has said repeatedly. And that's one thing that's missing here today. The general public is not allowed in the Capitol building today for this special session. If you're anything like me, you spend your time walking up to a food truck window, thinking about how hungry you are and what exactly you want to eat. Again, the Mullen Fire has grown to over 83,000 acres in about 2 weeks. Erin, what is the weather going to do this week? I mean, are we going to see any relief? He thinks that there are some reasons behind why we're seeing these fires burning so intensely. Now, he says one of those reasons is forest management practices over the years. Another thing that he says is climate change. I mean, drought conditions in Wyoming, he says, account for some of the reasons why these fires are burning intensely. If you remember, he is the public affairs specialist for Medicine Bow National Forest. Erin, thanks again for joining me this morning. We didn't see hardly any growth on the fire last week. We've seen containment percentages go up. So what's the latest on the Mullen Fire? I'm very excited about this because we're used to Wyoming winters and having that sheet of ice on our windshields when we get out and it's snowing. Well, guess what? That's gone today. That is not here. All of this ice is melting on your windshield. The public mask mandate for Albany County will now be extending until January 4th. More than 20 cattle died and more animals were missing after a crash in Cheyenne yesterday. Lincoln Way was even blocked off for some time while at least 7 agencies responded to an accident. Before you step out here to cut down your tree, you're gonna need to log on here. See how spread out we actually are, but here, we'll try that again.
Oh,
yeah, so
actually
through the magic, the magic of TV, we look like we're closer together than we actually are. Erin and I are pretty excited about it, I think, right, Erin?
It's somewhat of a return to normalcy.
Imagine trying to find that missing firefighter with limited visibility, all while wearing this gear weighing anywhere from 50 to 80 pounds. Wyoming state senators and representatives signed a letter asking Governor Gordon to join Texas in that lawsuit. Senator Bo Biteman shared the letter on social media earlier this week. The letter is co-signed by other senators and representatives. It asks Governor Gordon to instruct the Attorney General to join Texas in suing other states to, quote, protect the sanctity of the election process. Senator Biteman said the governor responded by saying he'd instruct the AG to look into it. And Governor Mark Gordon did respond yesterday. The governor issued a release saying he supports the Supreme Court hearing the case, but Wyoming will not be joining the suit at this time. He says he, along with Wyoming voters, overwhelmingly supported President Trump through the state's electoral process. But he says the case could have unintended consequences relating to a, quote, constitutional principle that the state of Wyoming holds dear, that states are sovereign, free to govern themselves. Other Republican officials in states like Utah and Idaho have responded similarly. And Secretary of State Ed Buchanan also issued a statement. He says, I support the state of Texas in its quest to ensure that elections are conducted in accordance with the Constitution and state law. Our judiciary is the proper place to raise these issues. Statewide orders extending closures across Wyoming, hoping to reduce the spread of COVID-19.
With the COVID-19, there the big question is uncertainty, not just for the state, but for the United States and also the rest of the world. How long does this last?
Effects of the closures spreading from schools to businesses to organizations.
Yeah, so we wanted to kind of pick up where we heard there's some slack in the community.
Another thing catching on in the community, creativity.
Our mission remains the same, right? We still are meeting human need in His name without discrimination and preaching the gospel. It just looks a little bit different, just like it does for everybody right now.
I think that we have this time, it might be good to some introspection and to try and help out other people in the community. That's the only way we can get through this is together.
From mask-making seamstresses to the Salvation Army, people continuing finding ways to give.
We wanted to start delivering lunches. We're also doing pantry bag delivery.
What do you think about the community and being in Cheyenne during the pandemic?
This is an amazing community, and they're so supportive, at all times. But I think, especially during, really crisis time.
A community continuing to spread support in a time of uncertainty. We're continuing to follow the evolution of the hemp industry in Wyoming. This week, I had a chance to go to the lab where the Wyoming Department of Agriculture tests THC levels for the state. The Wyoming Department of Agriculture can now test for THC in hemp. It's happening at the Analytical Services Lab in Laramie. Derek Grant with the department says it was a bit of a challenge to get the program off the ground.
We had to do a lot of work on the back end to try and make sure that we were following USDA regulations and that we got delegated authority from the USDA to implement a program here in Wyoming.
Jack Troster works at the lab. He says validating the way they test can take a while.
So we had to measure or calculate our measurement uncertainty and that type of thing. So it's a lot of replicates day after day to make sure you actually can always get an accurate and precise result.
Now, when it comes to the actual process, they dry the plant out for 24 hours. Then they take the leaves off the stem before sieving the plant.
She took out the large stems, but this will get out the smaller stems that still are above that size, as well as the seeds.
Then they grind up 1/2 of the sample. After the plant is sieved, you'll end up with 2 subsamples. So this first one has already been ground and is ready for analysis. This back one is kept just in case a farmer requests future testing. Troster says it's relatively easy to analyze THC because it's easily dissolved. They use a lab technique called chromatography to figure out the actual levels of THC in the sample of hemp they're testing.
The main thing we're excited about is it's an opportunity for another crop. The more opportunities and the more things that our producers have to grow in Wyoming, the better off.
You're planning on purchasing a Christmas tree permit from Medicine Bow Route National Forest this year. Like so many other things in 2020, it will be a little different. So before you step out here to cut down your tree, you're going to need to log on here. Now, I know the last thing any of us wants to do is spend more time in front of a screen during the pandemic, but it's a pretty quick process and it's relatively easy too.
People now have the option to purchase online. We would have done that regardless of whether or not we were dealing with COVID this year or not, but that is an option to go to recreation.gov and purchase your permit that way.
There is one change this year because of COVID-19. You can't buy the permit at the Forest Service office this year. It's closed to the public, but if you don't want to get your permit online, there are some options in Laramie where you can get one in person. And of course, after you get the permit, it's time to venture outside.
Christmas tree cutting this year is the same in many ways as it's been in the past. It's also a little bit different in the southern snowy range. So people coming to the southern snowy range in particular should expect to see some burned areas. It's the same in a lot of ways in that, there's still plenty of opportunities. It's still a great tradition. It's still something that we highly encourage for the health of the forest.
I'd say the thing I'm most excited about this year is that we have a lot more people looking for outings than maybe I've noticed in the past.
If you're looking for a more traditional tree like I am, you can cut down one of these. This is what I'm going to do in 2020. But if you want something that maybe embodies the year a little bit more, why not cut down a tree like this?
I just really like the trees around here because they are a lot more natural than the ones that are trimmed at tree farms. And so we don't always get maybe the most beautiful tree, but it's the most beautiful to us because we picked it out and it's maybe a little funky. And so it's something that we chose and that we get to decorate.
This year, walking around the forest did seem special. A reminder in the middle of devastation to look for life and joy, even a little laughter. For Wyoming News Now, I'm Grace Foulk. Happy holidays, everyone. This probably looks like just your normal coffee cart or your everyday food truck. But for the owners, Juan Coronado and Seth Stefanik, it's one of their dreams coming to life.
I think I just like serving people the most, and being back here in Cheyenne and seeing our regulars and providing a service that's awesome and great to them.
If you're anything like me, you spend your time walking up to a food truck window thinking about how hungry you are and what exactly you want to eat. But for Juan and Seth, they're thinking about how they can create an experience.
I'm more of an artist and entrepreneur, as well as a chef. So anything that I can serve to people and guests and see them enjoy, that's what really gives me pleasure.
The two are in their late 20s. Juan went to culinary school in Denver before getting a job in the restaurant industry.
I would say that I've always wanted to own my own business, and Cheyenne's growing, and there's a lot of potential.
The Wyoming Business Council points out that one index ranks Wyoming the most friendly tax climate. It's been that way for 5 years. The Business Council says businesses and people thrive in the Cowboy State.
There's a different pace here, and there's really not a lot of competition in every aspect of the industry. So, for example, in the culinary industry, there's just a few main players. Music industry, same thing. So I would say that just the opportunity of growth is what's really appealing for Cheyenne.
I would say that Cheyenne is an awesome canvas that hasn't been completely developed yet, and right now is a really good time to be here and bring your creative mind to the table.
Seth doesn't think he and Juan are alone in their passion for creating. He thinks there are a good amount of people out there who share that trait. For Wyoming News Now, I'm Grace Foulk.